Well, Alan, right now we want to show you that some law enforcement agencies are actually walking the grounds here at the high school. You can see they are armed. They have protective gear. This is what those people are dealing with tonight. We are on Arapahoe Avenue at 9th Street. We are just west of the Boulder Public Library. You can see Arapahoe Avenue has just become a raging river of water. The federal judge in this case says there is cause to suspect that witnesses were intimidated by Denver police officers. And this is what we know so far. We do know that the shooter is dead. The sheriff tells us it is believed that he died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. You can still see a lot of the damage that was left behind. This tree was knocked over in the collision along with this pretty heavy street parking sign. The most delays today have only been about 15 to 30 minutes, and that's because the planes need to stop at de-icing pads just like this one behind me. You can see that airplane is being treated right before takeoff. Vic, you can imagine how busy the subways and trains are on a typical weekend. Well, this weekend, some 80,000 fans will be making their way to the stadium. Right now, there is still yellow crime scene tape around the perimeter of the high school as investigators continue to gather evidence inside. Tonight, as you've mentioned, we have learned the name of the gunman and a possible motive for why he walked inside the school just after 12:30 today, armed with a shotgun. On this Friday afternoon at Arapahoe High School, the school day abruptly ended at 12:33.
I looked down the hallway and he's standing there with a gun running up and down the hallway. And it was terrifying.
A student armed with a shotgun entered the west side of the building with a purpose.
Running kind of military style, just unbelievable. Right away I grabbed the radio, called security, and when I heard the first two shots, I knew it was a kid just shooting.
We ran to a sprinkler room and just kind of hid in there and locked the door.
Police say the student asked for a teacher by name, his intended target.
And he was in the library, and when the kid went after him specifically, he wanted to kill him.
While the teacher left the building, two students became victims. One was transported in serious condition from a gunshot wound. Word quickly spread to the school resource officer who headed for the threat as he is trained to do.
But I believe the shooter knew that deputy sheriffs were immediately about to engage him, and I believe that shooter took his life because he knew that he had been found.
With the gunman dead, parents ran to the school, desperate to find their children and to find them safe.
She's just scared to death.
She said, "I'm okay, I love you guys."
Yeah.
Tactical teams and bomb squads surrounded the building and one by one began to clear each and every classroom. As phone calls and text messages were made and conversations were had, word began to spread about the shooter and a possible motive, revenge.
He was on the speech and debate team, and he got demoted a spot on the team, so I guess that was his primary reason for going after him.
Still, questions remain as the investigation now gets underway.
I want to know why the shooter wanted to do it, like why he decided to do it on this day and like harm an innocent school.
The rain that Colorado was hungry for during the dry, hot summer came down all at once.
It's mind-boggling to me.
Hillside homes in the 4 Mile Canyon became just another obstacle in the way of the water as it carved a path down burn-scarred terrain. Collapsed retaining walls and downed trees blocked the roadway, and in other places the road simply crumbled.
Everything we own is floating.
Kelly Fano's basement in the Eisenhower neighborhood became an indoor pool.
We had about 12 inches of water, and we're trying to pump it out, but it's coming in almost as fast as it's going out.
Near Broadway and Iris, teams of neighbors shoveled and wheelbarrowed their way through the downpour in hopes of saving their own homes.
Yeah, I picked up a couple thousand pounds of sand this morning and then built this wall, and we've just been clearing dirt.
As you can see, everybody's busy building up because we're expecting more rain.
Despite the rain, runners kept running, those on bikes attempted to keep cycling, and the rain didn't let up, even as lives were lost.
One of those fatalities actually occurred really close to my house. A woman was struck by a rolling boulder and killed.
The fear is those numbers will rise. And the fatality that woman was speaking of, that happened in North Boulder earlier today. The other fatality in Boulder County happened in Jamestown. Again, those numbers are expected to rise tomorrow as things continue to get much worse tonight. Reporting live in Boulder, Valerie Castro, CBS4 News. The federal judge in this case says there is cause to suspect that witnesses were intimidated by Denver police officers, in particular a witness that was involved in the actual attack. The judge has ordered an investigation into the patterns and practices of DPD and the Denver Sheriff's Department at the jail. It's hard to look at the scars and burns on Jamal Hunter's hip and inner thigh caused by scalding water. He lives with them to this day.
I was attacked by inmates, and which led and resulted in me being scalded very bad on my pelvis, my genitals.
Hunter says he was assaulted while he served out a sentence at the Denver Detention Center in 2011. His nose was also broken in the attack. In a civil suit, Hunter claims the attack was facilitated by a Denver sheriff's deputy inside the jail.
He turned a blind eye to what was going on, actually turned off lights in the cell while the attack was going on.
The case now stands in federal court with new allegations that Denver police detectives may have intimidated witnesses in the case.
Intimidating witnesses that were planning on testifying for me.
The judge has ordered the U.S. Attorney's Office to investigate both DPD and the Sheriff's Department. In court, the judge said, "I, for the life of me, do not understand and have not yet received an explanation of why the Denver Police Department Internal Affairs Bureau was even involved in this matter."
Do you feel like you've been victimized by two different law enforcement agencies that are supposed to protect you?
You hit it right on the head. The police department and the Sheriff's Department, I believe, are conspiring.
Hunter says he wants justice not only for himself, but also other inmates. The Denver Police Department says it can't comment on pending litigation. The U.S. Attorney's Office confirms that it received the judge's request for that investigation. Reporting live at Denver Police Headquarters, Valerie Castro, CBS4 News. This dispatch incident report essentially gives a timeline of when information was received by 911 and in turn relayed to officers headed to the scene. There have been a lot of questions about the priority this call was given and if officers got the information they needed as this situation escalated. According to the dispatch incident report, the initial call from Christine Kirk came in at 9:30 Monday night. She was concerned her husband was hallucinating and possibly under the influence of marijuana. About a minute into the call, Kirk told the operator the family had a weapon inside the home.
On report of a domestic violence in progress, RP versus her husband has been smoking marijuana. Advise they do keep a handgun in the house, but it's not in anybody's possession.
By 9:32, Kirk was telling the operator her husband was asking her to shoot him, that he was possibly on pain medication and suicidal with their 3 young children inside the home. At 9:43, Kirk relayed her husband was opening the safe to get the gun. Seconds later, she screamed and her voice was never heard again. 2 minutes later, at 9:45, an officer on his way to the scene learned too late that things had escalated.
332, Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, according to the notes, he grabbed the gun and she screamed and the line disconnected, so step up cover.
The same officer asked the dispatcher to try to get a hold of Kirk again, but there was nothing.
Can you see if you can try to get a hold of her?
Technically, she's still on the line. We've got an open line with her.
I am deeply concerned about the incident that occurred.
Denver Police Chief Robert White has ordered an internal investigation into the 13-minute time frame from Kirk's call to the point the line went silent.
We're going to look at all of those nuances and determine what, if anything, went wrong from our perspective. I mean, obviously something went wrong because someone lost their life.
Uptown, downtown, across town, subways and trains carry residents and visitors to all parts of the city and beyond. Come game day, the mass transit system will take football fans to MetLife Stadium at the Meadowlands complex in New Jersey.
There's a lot going on in the city with the football game.
At New York's Penn Station, the Department of Homeland Security, along with Amtrak Police, is already working to ensure the safety of travelers.
They're patrolling. They're looking for any sort of suspicious activity. They're working along with Amtrak, along with the dog and the explosives K9 to look for anything out of the ordinary.
This is Dixie. She's trained to sniff out any hazardous materials along the train platforms. Specialized equipment like this backpack is used to sniff out other potential dangers.
It detects a larger area for any sort of radiological matter or substance in the air.
Other officers are highly trained to watch for suspicious behavior. They also look for anything that seems out of place.
So this isn't supposed to be down here?
The presence of these specialized security teams is visible to everyone and hopefully will also act as a deterrent.
I would rather see an abundance than to see too few. It makes me a little more secure in that regard.
And the constant message to travelers, if you see something, say something. The TSA says it will also be screening passengers' bags on Sunday for any explosives. They're urging fans headed to the game to start heading in that direction early so they can make it to the game just in time for kickoff. Reporting live in Times Square, Valerie Castro, CBS4 News.